And 3, 2, 1. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, we're back. You're back.
Yes, ma'am.
For one night only. This is a one show event. This is an exclusive one night only happening. Cannot be replicated. Will not be duplicated. Sunny is here. Hi everyone. Hey, Sunny is here, and I'm
Yay.
here, and we are here for the third annual rendition of the Scary Talk Halloween Campfire. This is not a yearly tradition set in stone, but yet it appears to be becoming one. So happy to be here. Happy to have Sunny here. Hi, Sunny. How are you?
Actually, I'm coming off of a pretty stressful week, but other than that, in the grand scheme of things, I'm doing well. Not too stressed out. Exercising. I've gotten into rock climbing, which I never saw for myself. Yeah, things are good. How about you?
That must be tough for you to do rock climbing because I know you are 6'7", so I don't know if it's easy for you to stretch your limbs in such a way that climbing is easy. I guess
Well,
if
see,
the rocks
it
are...
makes it easier because then I can just reach any hold that I need without having to jump, you know?
I guess maybe for rock climbing, you're right. Actually, I'm thinking of other sports where really tall people struggle because their center of gravity is completely off balance. So like running, stuff like that, like sprinting, cross country, weightlifting.
Oh yeah, like gymnastics.
Yes.
Never. It just couldn't work with my body type because I'm too like tall and skinny.
Exactly. Like,
and that's okay. I accepted that early on.
You know, what do they say? God doesn't give with both hands. And in your case, yeah, you're certainly not the exception. It's truly a shame that you are tall and skinny and hot and blonde. But, you know, we all have to make sacrifices, and you just have to play the best hand you can with the cards that you were dealt. So,
no, exactly. Like, I just wake up every day remembering the things that I can be grateful for. And remembering that my friends are kind enough to check their short non-blonde privilege.
Right. But I'm assuming you only think about these things when you wake up, only after you've had your first thing in the morning glass of hot water with lemon juice. Is that correct? And apple cider vinegar?
Oh, it's a glass of milk. I don't know how you think I got to this height, but no, Gotcha. It's milk, and then, you know, maybe I'll put lemon juice in it if I'm feeling
just saying, that's a great skinny hack that I've heard around. And since you're always so thin and fit and limber, I figured that's what you were taking. But
yeah, I mean,
anyway.
The real trick is to eat celery. You know how they say celery has a negative amount of calories? Instead of like getting a diverse array of nutrients, I eat celery with peanut butter for about 3 meals of the day. And then for my last meal, I have bone broth. I don't know if you've heard... creator of Goop. What is her name? She's literally escaping me.
Gwyneth Paltrow. She literally recommends bone broth.
She put me on to just drinking broth instead of eating. And it's like, I've never been more grateful or inspired. And
it works because you taste the essence of food, yet there is no food to be found.
Exactly. And you're full from the liquid, so you don't have to worry about it.
I'm just saying. Exactly. Genius. I just... Her power, her mind is all I'm saying, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you.
PSA for anyone listening, please do not. I don't know. There's a lot of people with eating disorders out there.
I know.
I've been there. Like, please be kind to yourself and eat a proper amount.
I know. Our sense of humor is dry and fucked, and there are a lot of people with ED. So we just to be clear, we're not pro Anna. Anyway, okay. So let me tell you something that I am pro about, though, that I do want to talk about. Terrible segue. Pro Britney. Need to talk about Britney Spears. That's really what I'm trying to say. Oh, yes.
This is basically a Britney Spears podcast.
This is Britney Spears. Yes. Frankly, I've kicked myself so many times already for not being the podcast. If people out there don't know, the Free Britney movement actually, had been around for a while, but really kickstarted in, I think, 2018 or 2019 because of a podcast. Fun fact for those of you who don't know. A podcast made by just two regular ass average Joes like you and I.
It was you and I who talked about it and started the whole craze, right?
I wanted to be modest and not say that we opened the can of worms that was a Free Britney movement, but alas, you're right. We did. Modesty is all. No, I just wanted to say it was a podcast. It was like these two people who like covered Britney stuff or like pop culture stuff every week, and they had like a caller leave them a voicemail, and this person was saying that they work with Britney Spears or like they work with her people, and they could see that she was constantly being handled, had no freedoms or liberties whatsoever, and the conservatorship was essentially like limiting and slavery. Not to be insensitive with that last term, but I think y'all get what I'm trying to say. So Britney Spears, Sunny, you know that I just finished listening to The Woman in Me's audiobook because, again, I am illiterate. But alas, it still counts as reading the book.
Do you and Leah Michelle still keep in touch?
Yeah. Well, fuck you, but also have you read the book?
I have not read or listened to the book.
Okay, I do want to talk about this, but I don't want to go on an absolute diatribe, so I will try to keep it very concise. So most of the details a lot of stuff that has been talked about in the press is included in this book and is confirmed now to be true. I mean, in my eyes, we've been new. Like, I've been new. This shit was true. The stuff that I touted as true, turns out my psychic powers didn't fail me this time. I was right. But to be honest, I don't think it was psychic. I think a lot of the stuff was pretty plain to see. Just from her behavior on social media, how erratic it was that like she would go from supporting a family member on like a project of theirs to then seemingly shading them only a couple days later. And that's because like Britney's Instagram access was like constant. It was varied. Like she'd sometimes have access to it, and sometimes it was like her team posting shit for her on her stuff to sell stuff, promote stuff, which she didn't really want to do. But anyway, the book talks about all of her life. She essentially has this kind of retelling, this chronological retelling of her life from when she was a child to now. It's a pretty full picture, but pretty concise, mind you. The audiobook read by a mother, Michelle Williams, is only 5.5 hours long, which is actually not that long. And I listened at 2.5 speed because I have ADD, and so for me it was like 30 minutes really.
Sounds right.
Anyway, she talks about her life, the conservatorship. Yes, it fucking sucked. There was a lot of forced labor, lest she risked losing custody of her children. It's just fucked. It's just like fucked. I mean, I don't know. What do you... Is there a specific thing you want to know that maybe you're still unclear about? Because I could probably tell you.
No, I had listened to a couple of excerpts. There was one excerpt where she was talking about the Gimme More performance at the VMAs that so many people tore apart, that she was just feeling so unwell about. And I don't know, my heart goes out to her. It's crazy. The other thing is, on kind of an unrelated note, Gimme More is an insane banger. Like, all of the Blackout album, 7, like, insanely good during a time where she didn't even want to be creating. So, I don't know, like, a cautious kudos, I guess. I don't know.
It's funny that you would say that, because in the book, she literally says that she actually was really excited to make Blackout. There was a lot going on in her life, but at the same time, as much as there was chaos, she was also enjoying the newfound freedom she found and not giving a fuck about what people thought about her anymore, and just enjoying her kids and enjoying her then marriage to Kevin Federline. And so she made this album with the most creative freedom she ever had making any albums, and she says that this is the proudest she is of any album in her career. This is her favorite piece of work of hers.
Well, it's definitely in contention for being my favorite, so that's sick.
Yeah, I mean, basically every bottom's favorite Britney album. I mean, that's so. Yeah, a lot of people's favorites.
Bottom's allegations.
I'll say, I know, yeah, I know, it's salacious of me to say, but it's true. I will say, for me, it's Femme Fatale, and I know that sucks because she barely mentions that album in the book, and I don't think she mentions it at all, and I'm pretty certain it's because that was during the era where it was like completely robot Britney, autopilot. This shit was basically done for her, and she just laid down her vocals. She had like no artistic she was not interested in doing that at all, nor Britney Jean, essentially, or Circus, barely. So I don't want to really say it out loud because I feel bad, because I think essentially she was forced to record this album, is what I'm trying to say. But Femme Fatale is a fucking banger album. I don't know, I'm conflicted. But I mean, hello, I want to go till the world ends. Hold it against me. Anyway, so yeah, she mentions Blackout actually as loving that album, and then being deeply confounded as to the fact that she was, soon after that album was released, placed under the conservatorship, and being told that essentially she was demented, and that's why she needed conservators over her life and her finances, and she was deeply confused by the fact that this was happening, while at the same, like, while these people were arguing this about her, they were also making her work and go on world tours and shit. And also, if she was so demented, she said, why, like, how come I just put out my most critically acclaimed piece of work and like everyone loved it, essentially, like, and she's right.
Yeah, like, literally.
Yeah, it was fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
it's
wild to think that Kanye West is out and about, like, just doing his own thing. And no one's going to, like, put him under a conservatorship when, like, I'm just saying, if we're gonna do it to anyone. Meanwhile, Britney having just made
Yeah, no, that's a male privilege. She touches on that a couple of times, saying like Mick Jagger did crazy shit, so many rock stars did crazy shit, Steven Tyler did crazy ass shit in his time, so many men do crazy stuff, and they do like coke and drugs and out and about, and they abandon their children, and they have like 10 baby mamas. Like, none of this matters. None of these people get institutionalized. And
I know, right? Nick Cannon on his 17th child or whatever. Maybe he should be institutionalized.
That man has been wilding out for the past 15 years, and he needs to be institutionalized. And that's all I'll say on that. Poor everyone who's ever had to cross paths with. Poor Mariah Carey. My heart goes out to that woman. Yeah, a fucking mess. Charismatic, but a fucking mess. And I will say. Actually, I'll say something a little controversial. I do think male privilege does play a part in this. I don't think that's even the majority of the reason, though. Honestly, I think it's more so a case by case basis, and I think Britney just had a shit fucking family, and also didn't have as much of an incentive to, she not I was gonna say as much of an incentive to fight back. It's more so she had too much of an incentive to not fight back because she didn't want to lose her children. And so she essentially accepted the trapping, in a sense, because you really get the sense, given the narrative that she paints, that had she not had children at that time, if they tried to do this to her, she definitely would have been like, no, what the fuck, hell no, fuck, and like really try to make a ruckus about it, right? So really,
that makes so much sense. It's like a combo, right, of her being a woman, but also having a family that's willing to blackmail you over time with your children. That's a pretty specific precondition to something like this.
Yeah, literal leeches. What did Wendy Williams say? Shame on you, Mr. Spears, and shame on you too, Mrs. Spears. You all had me fooled. Death to all of them, and she was right.
Yeah, I loved her little face after she said that. Like, who said that?
Because the audience went, oh. But listen, she said what she said. Now, I think mentioned this to you already earlier, and a couple of our friends. I do not wish the karma gods to smite me, so I'm not actively gonna wish death on Britney Spears family members. But forever jail would be a great second option. And boy, are these people fucking leeches, and do I fucking hate them. Listening to this book, it is heart-wrenching, and it is fucking jarring. And Michelle Williams, again, you're a mother for narrating this the way that you did. She did a really good job. Britney Spears says in the prologue, is it prologue or epilogue? Prologue is when it comes first, right? Yep. She says in the prologue of this book, I didn't want to read too much of this because it's too traumatic, essentially, and I already had to live through it writing it all. So I'm gonna read to you like essentially this little piece of me being like, when I was a little girl. She reads about like 1.5 minutes of the audiobook, and then the rest is Michelle Williams. So it's just
Good
like an
shit,
intro
yeah.
by her.
And honestly, I
yeah.
hope that they employed a ghostwriter and Brittany just gave them, summaries, examples, and that they did all the writing. Because that shit is traumatic. And I genuinely
Yeah.
would not blame her for it.
I'm gonna assume that probably, yeah, like there is a ghostwriter working with her. I don't know to what extent she wrote versus the ghostwriter wrote. I will say, when you're listening to it, at least, you really get Britney's essence. Like, a lot of it does sound written and punctuated in the way that she writes her Instagram captions. So I am inclined to believe that she did write a good portion of this, or that the ghostwriter is really good and actually achieved like the goal of capturing her essence, even though she wasn't writing at all. One of those two options. Yeah.
Or she wrote the whole thing and then they put it through Chat GPT for edits.
I honestly, actually, I think I believe that one the most. I mean, like Britney Spears, I've seen, or like, I don't know. I feel like there's pictures of this, or like maybe I've seen it in documentaries. Like Britney does not have the best spelling or punctuation for stuff, but this woman loves sitting down on a fucking computer and typing. I feel like I've seen this many times. Or at least have her talk about it, and you can only believe what people tell you. So I'm gonna assume that she wrote it. But yeah, I mean, for it to like be fucking like publishing ready, Britney Spears is not an author. She obviously had a lot of edits at the very least, if not a ghostwriter help her out.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, I guess, is talking about the preconditions for this whole situation. Is like, she grew up as a kid in entertainment, which is like, you already get a lower quality of education a lot of the time, I feel, doing homeschooling. Maybe, you know what, I don't actually know.
Michelle.
So I can't speak to that. But literally, I feel like just a family willing to like sell their child's life. Oh, this makes it sound like entertainment families suck, which I don't think is always true. But I feel like that's probably related, right? If you've had your kid like doing things since they were baby and getting paid for it, maybe you just don't want that train to stop, and you figure out how do you get that to extend into adulthood.
Well, I mean, if you have any like modicum of success, you certainly don't want it to stop, because that means the money is good, right? Most people who try in the entertainment business, I would say about 80%, 90% don't make it. But the 10% that do, make it can make it relatively well. Like it's kind of the entertainment business, the entertainment industry to me seems kind of like an all or nothing kind of industry, where there is no middle class in the entertainment industry, is what I'm trying to say, right? So you either don't make it at all, or you like make it relatively well, and then there's like the ones at the very top who are like really making it like well. But there isn't a lot of in between.
There are people who do like national commercials, things like hand modeling, I don't know, the random like small things that they might make a decent but not grand income off of. But yeah, like with any big star, it's kind of like you're doing it or you're not.
I think I'm talking about celebrities, right? So like there are no poor celebrities. That are only rich celebrities, I would say, and then millionaire celebrities, and then Taylor Swift.
Although there are celebrities who spend all their money until they're broke because they're not managing it well. That happens too.
Yes, but that doesn't count in what I'm saying, because like that's because their spending habits fucking suck, not because they didn't get paid well or didn't get gigs.
Insane income for sure.
So to your point, I think like if you start putting them in pageants and commercial ads and whatever, or like shows, and they actually get like one gig, like I don't know, they're in Modern Family now and it's their first show and they're not the lead but they're in a big show, chances are, one, they're making good money, two, they're gonna get more gigs. So you certainly do not want this train to stop. And so a lot of these parents actually do have an incentive to kind of not give a lot of a fuck about their child's education / development, and kind of do like sell them away to the industry. Not as bad or as literally as Britney's family did to her, but like like what is it? In showbiz parents are like I think that's the term. Showbiz parents are a notoriously bad community of people overall. It's like there are exceptions.
Like Jeanette McCurdy's story recently too.
Right. Right. Exactly. You're right. So I would say not all of them, but most of them, and that's the problem. Anyway, I've ranted enough. Apologies.
Wow, words I never thought I would hear.
I just the book was really interesting. I'm excited she finally came out with all of this. I'm happy that she's free, that this fucking 13-year-old nightmare is over for her. Yeah, like I don't know. I love Britney. She means a lot to me and to a lot of gay people for a number of different reasons, and I'm just happy for her. And boy, what a fucking trip.
Right? Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, Sunny,
Amen.
now I want to ask you something. Yes, I know. Amen. I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
I know you did not take the time out of your very busy schedule to listen or read Britney's audiobook, but have you listened to 1989's Taylor's version?
I haven't. Okay. I have a close friend who's a huge Swiftie, and she was making a presentation on Taylor Swift and asked me for my feelings on her in one sentence. And I stated, yes. I said, I'm glad that she's a woman sharing and writing about her feelings and getting proper hype, but I do not personally or sonically connect with her music. And that is where I stand. I'm so sorry. But tell me about it.
You should have just stopped at I'm glad that she's a woman. And that should have been that would have been way funnier. No, I don't have much to say about it. Actually, I like Taylor Swift. I'm not a Swiftie. I'm not a stan. I would consider myself a mild fan now, especially after I went to see her on tour, which I know sounds oxymoronic. Like, why spend hundreds of dollars on Eras tour if you weren't even... Because I thought it would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I was right, and I don't think you have to be a stan in order to justify that. I just like concerts.
That tour is making history, 100%.
Guess who I went with, by the way? Shannon, everyone. And I think she kind of is becoming a Swiftie, so go bully her online, please.
Okay.
But she's been re-recording her shit, her albums. 1989, her version just came out last night, and all I'll say is I wanted to talk about this because I find it interesting, but I also don't want to spend a ton of time on it. All I'll say is that there's a production issue here. Her vocals sound great. All this shit sounds crisp, but because she is re-recording this on her own, kind of like in her own studio or who knows what, and not really trying to own the whole thing and not give parts of it away to like greedy producers. Because of this, she didn't have Max Martin come back, who's like a pop legend, come back and reproduce her re-recordings of 1989. And because apparently he, like, from what I've read online, he likes taking songwriting credit, which is apparently like a good chunk of money, even though he sometimes doesn't really write, but instead only produces the music. And Taylor doesn't like that because she like values songwriting a lot, and so she doesn't want to give it away if she doesn't feel it's actually merited. And so she didn't have him come back, but that meant that all of the songs on that album that are like punchy sound like shit.
Yep.
Sorry everyone.
Well,
I expect someone to come and slit my throat tonight in my sleep, frankly, like the Swifties will find me. But New Romantics, Out of the Woods, Style especially, brother, and fucking How You Get the Girl, they sound like shit. I'm sorry.
You know what, that brings up a really good point, because I don't know all the details, like maybe there's other issues with Max Martin, but from what you said, like, producers deserve some amount of songwriting credit, in my opinion, 100%, because what makes the punchy songs? The production.
Right.
And not only that, but producers are actively coming up with, like, oh, let's play this little triad here in the background. Like, they are actively adding embellishments to the song that make the song what it is. Like, writing a melody and a poem is not actually a full pop song in, like, this day and age.
Right. Especially
so,
if it's really, really actually pop music, right? So writing the poem and writing the melody, like thinking of the melody in your head, writing that down is a song if you're talking about Folklore or Evermore, her acoustic ass, folk ass albums. Like, yes. And those are, to people who like that genre, I wouldn't know because I don't like it, so I never got it. To people who like them, those are like pretty pretty like critically acclaimed. Like they think she did a great job on those, so I'm gonna believe them. But girl, what I know is pop music. And before this is a true fact, before I ever got interested in the lyrics of songs when I was like 18, for years of my life before that, essentially from a child to being 18, I literally couldn't have ever cared less what the fuck a song was about. Never. I never listened to the lyrics of a song. I only knew what it sounded like, and if I didn't like how it sounded, I didn't like the song.
Right? Like the beat. Dude, producers are out here. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, I feel like just the beat. Like, I don't know. I could think of a couple people who I think are more production oriented that are just like doing it in that realm, and it sounds really good. Like K Tornado or someone.
Charlie XCX. Like.
Yeah, and you deserve production or deserve credit for that. Wait, does Charlie produce her own music?
I think she co-produces, but a lot of the stuff is produced by someone else. A lot of her earlier stuff, which gay people love, her hyperpop era, was made by A.G. Cook.
Okay, A.G. Cook, yeah.
And she's someone who I don't think would ever undervalue not to be redundant, but the value of a good producer. And I don't know if she gives her people songwriting credit, but you said earlier what I was thinking, which is, I don't know about Max Martin, he might be a monster, but one, I really don't think so. He's no Dr. Puke. And number two, like I totally agree. Like, I'm sorry if it's folk music, sure, whatever. But if it's pop music, literally the production of it is, it's just part of the songwriting. Like, it's just, it makes the essence of the fucking song. Like, when I listen to New Romantics by Taylor Swift, which is my favorite song by hers. So now everyone who's a Swiftie listening to this has an idea of what I mean when I say I like pop music. Like, Taylor Swift mostly makes, really most of her songs quantitatively are actually slower and not punchy, and yet that's my favorite song of hers. When I listen to that, the original version, I am like, oh wow, lyrics are good. It exudes the feeling of being youthful and free or whatever, but the production is what it's like, you feel it vibrate inside your fucking body if you're someone who likes dance music or pop music. And to not have that in this new version at all, it like really brings it to the forefront. Like she's wrong about this. Like, she went about this the wrong way, at least for someone like me.
Why not hire a new producer who's willing to take on less of the credit or something, you know?
I mean, she did. She had someone else. I can't remember his name. It's not her usual collaborator. It's not Jack Antonoff, but it was someone else come and try to reproduce what Max Martin made. And it sounds like that. It sounds like a cheaper reproduction. It sounds like the Kids Bop version of the instrumental of the original songs. This has gone on way too long, but it's just because I love music and I love music production. Like, again, I never cared about lyrics until I did. And it's fucked. But love Taylor, sending her love. Don't kill me. Anyway, Sunny. Before we delve into this Halloween campfire, because this is absolutely a podcast about the spooky and the paranormal, and totally not about pop culture phenomena, I want to, before we delve into that, know what's up with you. I heard through the grapevine that you are maybe moving.
Yes, but actually, the city I was planning on moving to, I mean, it could probably be revealed with like a news search, but they have put on a hiring freeze. I know. So I may still be able to get my job through other...
They're not hiring janitors in Chicago anymore?
They're not hiring anyone who's not entirely essential to like public health.
Damn.
Yeah. So... Oh my God. Okay. I had a full thought there. But basically, I'm doing it through this fellowship. They're trying to find other sources of funding. We'll see if it works out. But if it doesn't work out, I am totally fucked, because this fellowship literally told us our start date would be October 30th. I turned in my 2 weeks resignation, right? My 2 weeks notice. And then they only told me a few days ago, essentially, that this shit was going down. And that, like, it's all in the air, and they can't give me any guaranteed timeline on when they'll figure it out either.
That seems very unprofessional. Like, what? Like, no, make sure that the program works before you tell people to fucking quit. What the fuck? Like,
no, exactly. And like they also place so much emphasis on like once you accept your position, or like once you even basically fill out the matching form saying like who you're interested in, you should consider that a commitment to doing the fellowship. Like they yeah, anyways, I'm very frustrated with that, but we will see how it works out because okay, the other thing is the hiring freeze is out of their control, but it's been in the news cycle for a couple months. Like I looked it up and there had been news pieces since September about it, which I didn't know about because I didn't think I had to research that given I was getting these jobs through a fellowship. But yeah, they clearly didn't research it either because they didn't even let me know until like a week after I had accepted the position. Yeah.
Dude,
so
this fucking sucks. What the fuck? I didn't know about this.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it because I've been like really angry and anxious about it and just unsure like what to do with all of that other than, you know, fucking go rock climbing, I guess. I'll like fall off some walls and bruise myself.
Which again, you'll be great at because you're so tall and lame and skinny. But
no, exactly, yeah.
But that fucking sucks. What the fuck? That is so unfair to you. I still think 1989 Taylor's version is worse than what's happening to you, but I'm so sorry for you.
I appreciate it. Yeah. But yeah, so the update is maybe I will have a new job. Maybe I will be unemployed.
Homeless.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? The nice thing is I'm living with family and enjoying it. Like, you know, I just hang out and, you know, I'll just cook to pay my dues. So.
I know. We'll cook for rent. Like
no, literally, like I'm a house daughter right now, not a housewife, you know. But
so
it's fine.
You heard it here first, folks. Sunny's update is either new job soon or new cardboard box soon. And you know what? I'm crossing my fingers for either of those because while one of those is far unfortunate than the other is, they're both interesting and they both sound like great content. And I know you've been on TikTok lately, and I'm just saying, if you completely fall off the bottom, if things go really south, you could always start doing TikToks about living in a box. The engagement would be through the roof. I know this. So
you're so right. It's like, here's how I tune my guitar while I'm living in a shack.
Okay. Real for a second, no joking. I was talking to Shannon recently, and I told her she had no idea about the TikTok NPC live people. For those of you that don't know, well, for those of you who don't know, fuck you, get in the loop. But basically, Sunny, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, they're so disturbing.
They are cunt. I don't know what you're talking about. I love them. I watch them all the time. My brain is rot. Like I'm pudding, right? I'm cooked essentially, and essentially I told Shannon recently. I told her about this. I showed her in person. She had no idea. She was shook because she's 79 years old and she just could not comprehend this. And I told her to start doing it, and no, she did not start doing it. That's not where this is going. But I think maybe she considered it for half a second, and that was just enough for me. That was so funny to see her reaction to this shit. For those of you that don't know, actually go look it up. But it's fucking people on TikTok pretending like they're an NPC, like in GTA or something, for hours and hours at a time, and then essentially getting what are equivalent to cash gifts from people who are watching them live. It is so debasing and humiliating, but also very cantina. And I kind of want to do it, and I want money.
You should do it. Actually, maybe I should do it too.
Well, we should do it together, Sonny.
I submitted my 2 weeks, so I'm gonna have at least a couple weeks of being unemployed. Even if I do end up transitioning to this job. And maybe this is my chance to launch my TikTok career. Or other big news that you're not going to understand because you're not a gamer girl like I am. Mm-hmm. I hit Diamond in TFT more recently, Teamfight Tactics, under the umbrella of like League of Legends, the PC game. And that means, well, okay, I hit Diamond a while ago. I'm now like high plat. I'd have to put in some time to get back. But it means being in like the top 1% to 2% of players. And I think that is a place from which I could wear revealing clothing and a pair of kitten headphones and maybe have a promising career, you know?
Dude, you could totally be one of those Twitch girls. Like, they make bank. Like, fucking do
right?
it. That sounds great. Like, listen, yes. I don't know why I'm so excited about this. But
can you imagine, like, my dad gets off of work early and comes home, and I'm at his fucking desk in a pair of cat
in a
ears.
bathtub.
Oh, in a bathtub going, like, Who's gonna bid for the next cup of water? Like, oh my god.
It's weird for me like watching that because I'm in a weird intersection, right? Like I'm a man, so like I feel like it's easy for me to adopt misogyny at any turn if things go awry enough for me. But also I'm gay and I love women, and so it's like I see this, you know, as they are not nominally known, Twitch thoughts, and I'm like, I think two things, right? One, I think like, ew, like fuck postmodernism, but also I'm like, the world sucks anyway. Nothing matters. Make your coin. If I had boobs like that, I'd probably do the same thing. So
no, and like,
yeah.
As a bisexual woman, I'm like, the Twitch thoughts are adding something to the world. Okay, they're hot.
It's how culture moves forward.
Yeah. Like, I appreciate it. I have never paid for content from a Twitch thought, but if I had enough extra income, and I was like, am I gonna donate $10 to this charitable organization in the global south monthly, or am I going to spend $10 getting access to the OnlyFans account of a Twitch thought that I enjoy? It's like, the choice would be tough.
I know.
And then I would spend the rest of my money on a Bugatti, you know?
As you should. I will say that I agree with you. I also have never spent money on anyone on Twitch for that matter. And I really appreciate that because I'm already broke from spending $150 on OnlyFans every month. And so
and from going to the Eras tour when you weren't originally a Swiftie.
Yeah. Well, you know, that was $3,000 down the drain, but mostly the OnlyFans that I think is breaking my bank. And complete joke, by the way. There's no fucking way I'd spend $3,000 on Taylor Swift. About the OnlyFans, I'll let you guys decide if that's a joke or not.
Have you ever paid money for porn? I think that's such an interesting.
Have I
concept.
ever paid money? Yes, I have. Never an OnlyFans. This was like years ago, and it was a very specific site, and I was, I don't know, gooning and baiting and losing my mind, I guess, and that's why I spent money on porn, but I've never done it again. It's not that valuable to me.
Yeah. I have come close for like, I've like seen this person multiple times.
You've come close?
Damn, I feel like a boomer for laughing at that. But but have not. But you know, it's something I think about sometimes, you know.
But like what you came close for who? Like what was it that was so enticing about this creator that you were like, "Oh my god, I'm about to do it."
I don't think I can share. I don't think I can go into that kind of detail.
That's funny.
But I will say, it was like a specific creator. It's like I've seen enough from them to be like, should I go behind the paywall? And then it was like, no, I don't think that's worth it.
Interesting. I'll share my thing. For me, it was a kind of amateur porn that I think at the time gotten so tired of studio stuff, and I wasn't finding amateur stuff that I liked or thought was, it's almost like the amateur stuff was too amateur and the studio stuff was too like clinical and well lit and sanitized, and so I wanted something kind of in the middle, and that's what this site was. Yes. Yeah. So having exposed my sexual taste, maybe we should talk about something spooky.
Now that we're 40 minutes in, I think this might be a new record for the amount of time we spent just stalling, talking about random shit.
It absolutely is. But to be fair, we haven't caught up in a long time, and we are making what now an episode a year, if we even feel like fucking doing so. So who cares? It's fine. We'll go over a little bit. Let's do some spooky stuff, Sunny.
Hell yeah. Also, can you hear the like spooky banging in my background?
Oh my god!
Stop! It stopped once I mentioned it. Wait, okay. Because the thing is, I've been staying with family, and this house fucking creaks and makes sounds for no reason all the time. And when I tell you, like, I've literally taken a break from marijuana because I'm like, I cannot afford to be the slightest bit more paranoid than I already am while living in this house, working from home alone all the time. Anyways,
that
I'm just
is
prepared. Yeah.
I actually don't have a joke. I'm sorry for you because I think that shit would freak me out too. If only because I don't remember how much paranormal stuff you say you've experienced, but I think it would freak me out a lot because because I've never experienced anything. Like, actually, that's why. And so I am sorry for you. That fucking sucks. I'm really sorry, Sonny. On
Wow,
that
thank
note,
you. You sounded more sincerely sorry about that than me possibly being unemployed.
listen, because I've been there, done that, you know. And you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You're smarter and hotter and blonder and skinnier than I am, so you'll be fine if you're unemployed, girl. I was fine.
I mean, I'll accept all of those things as being true. So,
but being haunted, I don't know. I feel like we'd both be kind of fucked for a bit. I'd be fucking scared. Listen, I want to segue into something really quick before we go into the stories. The reason I think I felt such sincere empathy in that moment was because literally just last night, no, I did not have my first paranormal experience, but what I did have was this really weird thought where I've been getting more recently into the idea that like maybe interdimensional beings exist around us at all times. And so last night I was going down the stairs in my house. I was going down to the first floor to the kitchen, and I was like singing and dancing and shaking my ass or whatever, and I literally stopped for a second and thought to myself, what if someone's watching me right now? Like, not even like a devil or like a demon or a ghost, or just like, again, what if interdimensional beings are real? There's someone else existing in this plane, just like in a parallel dimension, like in my house, literally, like another version of, like a parallel version of, I don't know, say my brother or something, and he is watching my ghost in his dimension shake ass. Like, that's so embarrassing. So I stopped shaking ass.
Stop. That's actually
I'm
so
serious.
funny. Wait, but if you're like shaking ass and they have to deal with it, like that's on them, you know? Like, don't let them steal your joy, honestly.
And it didn't make me paranoid for a second. I think eventually the way I resolved that was by being like, well, if I can't see them, why would they be able to see me in their dimension, right? Like,
no, that's so real though. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, okay, unrelated, but I was researching stories for this today, and of course, you know, I'm just home alone like all the time. So I'm reading these stories, I'm home alone, and I wasn't really thinking that they had affected me, but I had to go out to my car to grab something. And when I walked out to my car, there was this lady walking her dog across the street, and I had just read a story that involved a dog, and she like waved to me. The way I didn't do anything in response, I was like paralyzed. I was like, I'm about to fucking die. This woman with a dog is gonna, I don't know, attack and like take off my skin and wear it as her own or some shit.
That lady must have thought like, damn, I gotta move out of this fucking whack ass city.
I know, she was probably like, plus I wear the most whack outfits at home alone, right? I'm here in like fucking athletic shorts and like a cropped sweater, wearing mismatched socks. I'm literally walking outside in my mismatched socks on my way to grab stuff from my car. She like sees me and I don't respond to her. She's probably like, what the
You just stare vacantly. You don't even raise an arm. You start drooling from one side of your mouth. Children of the corn. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
That's funny. I actually don't empathize with that. I think only because, no, like, I mean, I feel bad for you. What I mean is that doesn't happen to me only because I think out of, you know, Shannon and you and even the rest of our friend group, really pretty much anyone I know, I'm the person that consumes, I'm the person who consumes the most horror content that I know. And so it doesn't face me like that anymore. I think what would face me was like finally having my first paranormal experience for the first time. Not that I'm hoping that happens. That's not what I mean by finally.
I feel like for the amount of times you've mentioned it, like you're on the edge of your seat. Like we're just girls in high school discussing when we're gonna lose our virginities, you know?
I know, and it's weird because obviously part of me is like, I mean, I've talked about this. Like, I really hope nothing like that ever happens to me, because even though it wouldn't shake my belief system, because I really believe in this stuff, it would still freak me out for a while, and I don't really want to deal with that. But it would be an interesting validation, wouldn't it? Because as much as I believe in it, I will admit there is a 10% in me that is like, you have no proof, Andre, really, fully, for some of the things you believe in, unlike other people who have had these experiences. So, like, it would be like locking it in for me. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. I
like
feel
experiencing,
very much,
like, yeah.
I feel very much agnostic about most things supernatural, where I'm like, a lot of these things can't be proven, but they can't be disproven. I will say the reincarnation episode that we made shook me the most. Because I did not know. I think it's like the University of Virginia or something literally has an entire graduate program dedicated to studying it. And like there was one specific dude who had years and years of like research and recorded interviews about reincarnation experiences. And that really threw me for a loop. Actually, just talking about it makes me want to dive into the rabbit hole again. I probably will after this. But yeah, as someone who's like pretty neutral on most paranormal things, where I'm like, I don't actively believe it, but I'm also not like, I don't think there's a way to disprove most of these things. Yeah, that I think maybe shook me the most was the reincarnation episode.
I did not know that. I didn't know that. Interesting. This reminds me of something. I just saw this documentary called After Death at the movies, actually just yesterday, and it turned out to be this like thinly veiled attempt to but like the filmmakers to make the audience Christians, to like convert them into Christianity essentially. And I should have known because it said somewhere in the poster or something that it was from the producers of Sound of Freedom. So like but I still I think knowing that going in, I still wanted to watch it because the trailer seemed like, oh no, we still like cover a number of perspectives. But I think once I was 35 minutes into it, that's when they really like started to lay it on heavy. And I was like, like fucking boring. But, you know, like beside that angle, the actual stuff they were saying and some of the people they had talk in that documentary was some really interesting shit. And it was about people who have near-death experiences, who get in a fucking, I don't know, car crash, or like a pilot in a plane crash, and for the next 5 minutes after they've crashed and essentially are clinically dead, they see their bodies from above. They're hovering over their bodies. I'm sure you must have heard shit like this. And or like people who are in hospital rooms and they see themselves being resuscitated with the fucking, you know, the like the thumping machine, that thing. And all of these experiences are being recorded by like a number of scientists that work at a number of like somewhat renowned universities. And the documentary, before it gets like super Christian on you, does go over the work that some of these people have done, sometimes for decades, and how a lot of these NDEs, these near-death experiences, do share a ton of similarities in how they're recounted by the people. There's always some kind of hovering. There's always an out-of-body experience where they can see themselves dead. They always see a light, usually. It's really interesting stuff. I think I mentioned before, personally, I do believe in reincarnation. So much so, I think if I had to bet, I would say it is the definite thing that probably does happen to all of us when we die, or at least most of us. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure some part of that is wishful thinking, but the rest is just earnest. I think that's probably what's up.
Yeah, I think the theory that like what you are reincarnated as depends on how good of a person you are is so fun. Like the idea that you could be looking at a worm and it's like, oh, you were a CEO in a past life, you know? It's like
looking at my ex right now. Oof. No.
It's so fun. Added layers to that because I do have a dead ex.
Oh fuck.
But he was lovely, so I'm sure he wouldn't be a worm, you know? Maybe I would be looking at like an elephant or something.
He reincarnated into like a Labrador that's like in a loving home right now or something.
No, exactly. Like I genuinely feel like that should be above humans in, you know, the lineup of things that you could be. Although you have so little control as an animal, because if you get a shitty owner, like you could just be thrown around and, you know. In a very short lifespan. Yeah, I think that if the reincarnators, whoever's in control of this, could control for how good of an owner you get once you get adopted, then yes, it's a better deal than being a human being. But if they can't control for that, then yeah, I think it could be a shit deal. I'd rather just deal with being a human and take my own chances. At least I have control over my own life, mostly, you know? Yeah. Although, you know, that's with the downfall of our democracy, maybe that will be less and less true. Sorry. I know. Okay. Also, I think, I don't know how the fuck they did this, but I think scientists recently proved that free will is now absolutely for certain not a real thing, which is great. I think I remember reading that and then thinking to myself, like, so I still have to go to work tomorrow? Like, does it change anything? Like, it's just crazy reading huge shit in the news and then thinking like I think I sent to the group chat today that thing about like, we just discovered that there's an underground ocean under the Earth's crust, and it's like enormous ocean. And I just thought to myself after I saw that, like, do I still have to pay rent? Like, does it literally like, or when the government was like, aliens maybe are real, here's all this Pentagon footage of pilots recording UFOs, and it's like, yeah, but you know, like, democracy is still collapsing and I still gotta pay rent and I still gotta go to work. So no, literally, it's like so oh yeah,
cognitively
the permafrost
weird.
is melting and we're gonna see diseases that we have no immunities to because it's been hundreds of thousands of years, and it's like, oh
Another
my god,
Tuesday.
can't wait to, yeah, literally can't wait to fucking wake up and make my little daily coffee and go and do my shitty little tasks and send my emails and pretend I'm doing work while I watch YouTube. Like,
I think
crazy.
I think I would care more about these huge news if every time there was like a huge news thing, they were like, it actually like changed the world, right? Or like politicians were like, this is so huge that we're actually gonna, I don't know, change the way the world works. Nah, we just discovered some huge thing is happening and the world is ending maybe in 50 years, question mark, because of global warming. We have all just collectively agreed to introduce universal basic income now. You're welcome. Like, I think, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it is so interesting because it feels like that should happen, right? It's like in the 70s when they discovered global warming, there should have been an immediate, oh, we'll scale back, which actually there has been. As an example, like a lot of hairsprays were depleting the ozone layer, which was super dangerous, and you know, skin cancer, everything else. And there's immediate political response that like outlawed certain types of like aerosols, and our ozone layer has since not gotten worse. I don't know if it's gotten better, but it has not gotten worse. And it's so crazy because it's like, why doesn't that happen all the time? And the simple answer is like corporate interests, right? Because gas companies knew from the 70s, based on research, what was going to happen. Yeah. And they actively put so much money into lobbying to make sure that there was no political response and that our world would just be put in this like state of paralysis. And then those CEOs are just going to sit on all their fucking money and not deal with any of the consequences, while people in like the global south are super affected and like don't have funds because they've been like colonialized. I don't know. The colonized. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, I actually can't think of anything more evil, and it's just kind of crazy that that's where we're at. Like, yeah. And then people, and then it's like, and now I'll wake up tomorrow and do my thing, I guess.
I think the problem with this is that the reason this makes me feel weird is I think because it gives me cognitive dissonance, right? It's like apocalyptic news, but then I still have to worry about this everyday stuff. So it makes me think that maybe the apocalyptic news is fake, or maybe it is real, but I am being asked to just be a detached human being, because how could I possibly entertain both of these thoughts at the same time without detaching? You can't. You have to essentially be like, well, it doesn't affect me, so, you know, I guess maybe fuck everyone else who's like in the global south, I guess. Like, but that I think desensitizes you and makes you less of an empath and less of a human. But it's not my fault. Like, what the fuck much can I do? Like,
no, exactly. And the thing is, like, there are small actions we can take. I really believe in like bottom up change being required sometimes. Like I think vegetarianism is great, and we've talked about that. But while I'm very willing to admit that as an ideal, it's like, I'm waiting for someone to pass a fucking law that says I can't eat beef. Okay? Like, and I'll accept it. I won't even be mad about it. But
I totally
am
know
I
what
about
you mean,
to do that radical right now, given convenience? And also the fact that I don't want to have to incorporate fucking lentils and beans into my diet every day to get proper protein.
Right.
Like, I don't want to do that. I'm sorry. That sounds labor intensive.
No, but I agree with you 100%. And if someone introduced a law and like took the power from my hands, I know this is a weird concept to a lot of people who are like, no, I want to have total control over everything. Like, we don't have control over, we get to wear a fucking seatbelt or not, and no one complains about that anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people first complained about that fucking 60 years ago or whatever. But
where's
people
my
now
right
realize,
to
like,
fucking die? Like, okay.
Exactly. Now they're like, oh no, this was a good idea to require people. I think most people agree this is a good thing that the government forces us to wear seatbelts. I think this is a much more radical thing to say because we live in 2023, but I'm trying to really think futuristically here. I know this sounds super fucking pretentious, but I agree with Sunny. I think that there maybe is a future where the government is like, meat is just completely outlawed in first world nations that can afford to create lab meat, which people freak out about, but it's the same fucking thing. It's real meat, or like meat alternatives that are perfectly fine. And I think the reason this to some people sounds so fucking like dystopian and apocalyptic and authoritarian is because like they're gonna make us eat the soy. It's like Soylent is made out of people, and it's like, do you realize what's in a slice of pepperoni? Like it's it's literally like cancer. If you eat, some fucking like brand like FDA approved lab meat that is literally made from the same fucking cells that the meat would be made if you actually fucking kill the cow for it, literally nothing's gonna happen to you. All that's gonna happen is the same thing that happens to you when you do eat a cow, which is frankly all the negative effects of already eating beef, which again is not great for you, even if it is lab grown. Like it's not great, health wise. The obviously, the only benefit of the lab grown meat is mostly for the environment, but health wise, since it's actual real meat at the end of the day, it still has all the downsides, right? The inflammation, the saturated fats. Like, yes, it has protein, but a lot of vegans that care about veganism for health's sake, not so much for the environment's sake, talk about the fact that the reason they don't eat a lot of animal products is because most of them cause inflammation. And they're right, but we're getting way fucking off track. I do agree with you that like bottom-up change is important, but what I was going to say was that even if everyone became vegan, Sunny, that is such a small drop in the bucket compared to first world countries passing actual like good legislation that is like, hey, Coca-Cola and Ford and GM, you can't pollute the atmosphere by 1 trillion tons of CO2 per second. Like that really would make a change. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the ideal would be both, because if everyone were vegan, that would make a super significant change to like the amount of methane that cows produce, right? Because there'd be no demand and far fewer of them would be around. But like, yeah, that wouldn't take away from what corporations are still doing in other areas.
Right.
Yeah, so I feel like the ideal is to do both. And so many people act like it has to be one or the other. Like, I should have zero personal responsibility for this. It's like, it's okay to admit, like, I think individuals could be making more of a difference than we are. I also think, given the way capitalism is set up, where you have to work so much and be so isolated and, like, not... Like, I don't know, so many of the goals of capitalism are, like, isolating people so that they can't live in community and, like, think about, trying for a better system. Like so many people are super anxious, depressed. Like, I don't know. I get not doing a lot of these things, but I think it's okay to admit that in an ideal world, maybe more of us would, or we'd have more of a collective sense around that being the right thing to do. Yeah.
No, that's fair. No, that's fair. And what I meant earlier with the pepperoni I wasn't talking about pepper, just to clarify something. I wasn't talking about pepperoni because it's meat. What I meant to say was, like, you don't want to eat lab-grown meat. Look at the ingredients in a fucking Four Loko. Look at the ingredients in, like, a bag of, like, Ruffles queso. Like, and you're scared of a lab-grown meat? Girl. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, no, 100%. That's always, like, yeah.
Right.
Anyways, now that we've covered our spookiest topics.
Anyways, thank you for coming on, Sunny. This was a great episode.
The way this has actually been an episode late. And how do we always end up back at veganism, Andre? Because it's like
funny because neither of us are vegan. No. Neither of us are vegan, but like we truly believe in its merit, like earnestly. I really do. That the problem is that I have so many incentives to not engage in it in a meaningful way. Obviously, I eat a lot less animal products than I did, years ago when I was a teenager, because like I really get the message now, right? But I still eat some, and so it's
and I agree with that too. You know what? I have overall reduced my meat intake by a decent amount. So. Yay on both of us for that, that counts for something.
Also, again, not a pro ED podcast. Just everyone shut the fuck up. It does help you stay thin. Just gonna say, milk, whole milk, even 2% milk. I love milk. I love milk. Big issue. Plant-based milks, less calorically dense per like gram of protein, I have found, and so helps out with that. But anyway,
that makes sense. Well, you know what though, I feel like while you have been like skinny cunting, I have been
oh no,
what's the word, like buff girl, like footing,
buff girly,
like yeah. So I'm like way more ripped than I've ever been, and I'm also like maybe I know there has to be some kind of protein intake to keep up with that, but I'll send you a gym pic or something.
Well, you haven't seen me in person because you've been prancing around the country or whatever the past number of who knows. We haven't seen each other in a while, but I will say you haven't seen me in person. The way that I have stayed much thinner than I used to be is because I am weightlifting a lot. Because I have found that it is far more efficient to weightlift as far as keeping your weight loss than it is to just do cardio or just starve yourself. Because if you create muscle and then you try to maintain it with protein, and you eat that, for your body to keep that muscle tissue alive, it requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of calories. So basically what I'm trying to say is, if you weightlift and then you eat, you eat good and you eat enough protein to keep your muscle, you will usually keep your weight down much more easily than trying other methods, because your body is consuming so much energy trying to keep you muscly, and that basically keeps you thin. It's such a weird hack, but that's basically how it works.
That makes total sense. I will say, like, I remember a time in my life where I was way more panicked about my weight, and I don't know, I never really thought about weightlifting, but I started weightlifting this year for several months, and then also started rock climbing more recently. And I think in the sense of having more muscle or in the sense of skinny cutting, I think I'm doing both better.
Good.
And yeah, I'm like really... I mean, I don't think your body should be like the center of your world, but it's nice being like, oh, I like this, and I think I look good. Yeah.
It shouldn't be, but you should keep it as well capped, and like you should maintain it as well as possible. Not even because of image. Like, to me at this point, that's now secondary, primarily because of longevity.
Physical health. Like, your physical health and your mental health are very intertwined as well. But sorry, yeah.
Very. I have found, yes, since I've been on my gym journey, very intertwined. And I work with some old people now, and I'm like, oh, like, I don't want my back to look like, I don't want to be this frail at this age. They're really like 50 or whatever, and I'm like, I should keep doing what I'm 50? Doing. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No, I completely agree.
So
yeah. Okay,
anyway.
well...
Oh my fucking guy.
We literally hit the hour mark, Andre. What the fuck are we doing?
Just go. Give me one of your spooky stories. Spooky time starting now.
This story by Blair Daniels on No Sleep on Reddit is titled, "Attention shoppers, please hide at the back of the store immediately."
Ooh, okay.
Mm-hmm. "Attention shoppers," came a male voice over the intercom. "Please move to the back of the store immediately." "The back of the store?" I whispered to Daniel. "Don't they mean the front of the store? To pay for our stuff?" It was 8:50 p.m., 10 minutes till closing time. We'd brought our 2 kids out on this late-night Walmart excursion in the hopes of burning off some energy. Instead, they'd just thrown tantrums for new Legos and Hot Wheels. It was a disaster. But apparently, the disaster was just beginning. "Please move to the back of the store immediately," the voice repeated overhead. "This is not a drill." I glanced around, but the other shoppers were just as confused as I was. An old lady looked up at the ceiling, scrunching her face. "What the hell?" a dark-haired woman asked her boyfriend, pushing a cart full of garden supplies. "Didn't you hear?" an older man said, leaning over his cart of bottled water and canned food. "We're in a tornado watch. 1 touchdown in Somerville." A tornado? It was definitely storming outside. I'd seen the black clouds roll in from the east earlier, but it didn't look that bad. "Do not stay out in the open. I repeat, do not stay out in the open." There was a pause. Then an explosion of sound as everyone began to mobilize. Carts rolling, panicked voices, feet slapping on the floor. No. This can't be happening. I hurried down the toy aisle, Tucker in my arms, Daniel and Jackson following me. 3 zigzaggy turns, and then we were in the electronics area. I glanced at the TVs on the wall and pictured the 4 of us crushed underneath them. "Stay away from the windows and doors," the voice continued on the loudspeaker, "and do not attempt to exit the store." Is it safe here?" Daniel shook his head. "Big open areas aren't good. I'm going to check in back, see if there's a break room or something. You stay here, okay?" I nodded. Arms shaking, I sat down on the ground between 2 shelves of video games. Tucker sucked on a bottle in my arms while Jackson began to giggle. "Is the tornado going to hit the store? And everything will fly around real fast?" he asked with a big, stupid grin on his face. I don't know. A tornado. A real-life tornado like you see in the movies plowing through our town. It was so unfathomable. We were New York natives, transplanted here to Indiana only 6 months ago. I'd never been in a tornado watch my entire life. Daniel jogged back into view. "Everything's locked up," he said, as he joined me on the floor. "But listen, Fairview's a big town. The chances that it'll hit this Walmart, I think we'll be okay. I never should have brought us here. You didn't know. None of us did. He wrapped his arm around me. They should have warned us, like an emergency alert on our phones or a tornado siren or something. The voice overhead rang out again through the store. Do not stay out in the open. Do not make yourself visible. That includes security cameras. Please move to a spot that is not visible to any cameras. I frowned. What does that have to do with tornadoes? A feeling of unease in the pit of my stomach. I glanced up and saw several black globes descending from the ceiling, hiding the cameras within. I guess we should listen to them and get out of sight, I whispered. I grabbed Jackson's hand, Daniel picked up Tucker, and we jogged out into the center aisle. The store was an eerie sight, abandoned shopping carts, askew in the aisle, full of everything from pies to batteries to plants. Footsteps echoed around the store from people unseen as they found their new hiding places. We dodged a shopping cart full of soda, ran through kitchenwares, and then stopped in the Easter decoration aisle. There was a camera in the central corridor, but as long as we stayed in the middle of the Easter aisle, we'd be invisible. The four of us crouched on the floor next to some demented-looking Easter bunnies. I'm hungry, Jackson whined. Shh! Mommy! I grabbed a bag of colorful chocolate eggs and ripped it open. Here, candy, happy? I whispered, thrusting them into his hands. Then I leaned back against the middle shelves, panting. But I didn't have long to rest. A mechanical whine overhead, and then the voice came through the speakers again. Keep away from aisles with food. If you have food with you, leave it and move to a new hiding place. If you have any open wounds, cover them with clothing. What the fuck? That had nothing to do with keeping safe in a tornado. We should make a run for it, Daniel whispered to me, starting to stand. But the tornado. I don't think there is a tornado. Listen, do you hear any wind? I listened, but all I heard was silence. No howling wind, no shaking ground, no projectiles clinging against the metal roof. Maybe it's still coming. I know what they're saying doesn't make sense, but to go outside? We need to get out of here now. He grabbed Jackson's hand as he held Tucker in his arms. Come on. Daniel, I don't think that's a good idea, I whispered. But the next words from the intercom changed my mind. Assume a fetal position and place your hands on your head. Close your eyes and do not open them for any reason. Let's go. We broke into a sprint and ran down the central aisle. Cameras be damned. The front door appeared in front of us, a little black rectangle looming in the distance. And as we got closer, I saw Daniel was right. There was a tree at the border of the parking lot, under a street lamp. It was perfectly still. We continued running, past the clothing area, past the snacks lined up at the checkout lines. I ran towards the sliding glass doors as fast as my legs would carry me. Almost there, almost there, almost. The doors didn't open. No. Daniel slammed his body against the door. It rattled underneath him. I tried to squeeze my fingers into the gap between them to try and pull them apart. They didn't budge. They locked us in, I whispered. I want to go home, Jackson said. Tucker was beginning to fuss too, making little noises like he was about to start full-on wailing. I turned around, and that's when I saw him. A Walmart employee. He was sitting on the ground at the end of one of the checkout aisles, facing away from us, wearing the familiar blue vest with a golden starburst. Hey, let us out! He didn't reply. Did you hear me? I don't care if there's a fucking tornado. Unlock the door and let us out. Again, he said nothing. But in the silence, I could hear something. A wet, smacking sound. I stared at the man, slightly hunched over, still facing away from me. Was he eating something? The speaker overhead crackled to life. Attention, please do not talk to any Walmart employees. My blood ran cold. The smacking sound stopped, and then, slowly, the man began to stand. He placed his palms on the conveyor belt and pushed up, and I could see that they were stained with blood. I backed away, but my legs felt like they were moving through a vat of honey. No. Fingers locked around my arm and yanked. Come on, Daniel shouted. I sprinted after him deeper into the store. Tucker stared at me over his shoulder, and Jackson ran as fast as his little feet would take him. I was vaguely aware of the slap, slap, slap sound behind me, but I didn't dare look back. Daniel ran into the clothing area and I swayed, dodging circular racks of t-shirts and wooden displays of baby clothes. He skidded to a stop and ducked into the dressing room area. "In here," he whispered, motioning at one of the rooms. We piled inside and locked the door. "Daddy," Jackson started. "You listen to me very carefully," I said, crouching to his level. "You have to be absolutely silent. Do not say a word, okay?" Jackson looked at me, then Daniel, and then he nodded and sat down on the floor. "I'm going to try to call 911, Daniel whispered, transferring Tucker to me and pulling out his phone. He tapped at the screen, then frowned. "What?" We don't seem to have any service. I don't..." Thump. I grabbed Jackson and pulled him away from the door. The four of us huddled in the corner. I held my breath. Thump. Under the gap of the dressing room door, men's feet in black shoes. They slowly took a step forward, deeper into the dressing room. "Don't move," I whispered, holding Jackson. The man took another step. "Don't make a sound, don't move, don't..." Tucker let out a soft cry. The man stopped. His feet turned, pointing at us. Tucker let out another cry, louder this time. My nails dug into Daniel's hand. A hand appeared. It slowly pressed against the floor, stained with blood, and then his knees appeared as he lowered himself down to the gap. No. Could he fit under? The gap wasn't small. It was like the stall door to a bathroom. If he flattened himself against the floor, there was a chance he could fit under. I watched in horror as his stomach came into view, his blue Walmart vest as he lowered his body to the floor. Then he pushed his arm under the gap and blindly swept it across the floor, as if feeling for us. This is it. We're gonna die. And then he lowered his head. His face. God, there was something horribly wrong with his face. He smiled up at us with a smile that was impossibly wide, showing off blood-stained teeth. His skin was so pale it was nearly blue, and his eyes, they were milky white, without pupils or irises. I opened my mouth to scream. "Attention, shoppers," the voice began overhead. "Please make your way to the front of the store and make your final purchases. We will be closing in 10 minutes. What? And then, before I could react, something unseen jerked the man out of view. A strange dragging sound followed, as if someone was dragging his body out of the dressing room area. I stared at the door, shaking, as Tucker's cries rang in my ears. But he didn't come back. And within 10 minutes, the usual hubbub of Walmart returned. Voices, footsteps, shopping cartwheels rolling along the floor. Shaking, I finally got up and unlocked the door. The store looked completely normal. People were lined up at the cash registers, placing their goods on the conveyor belts. Employees were scanning tags, printing receipts. People walked towards the glass doors, and when they did, they slid open. As we slowly walked towards the exit, I spotted the older man who'd warned us about the tornado earlier. What was that?" I asked, unable to keep my voice from shaking. He shrugged. "I guess the tornado missed us. What a miracle, huh?" Giving us a smile, he disappeared out the glass doors and into the night. That's it.
Okay. Ooh, oh, that's pretty good. I was very enthralled. But, okay. What the fuck was the... Okay. What the fuck was the thing that was smiling? Also, was this some kind of alternate dimension they entered, but only for a number of minutes while that event took place, and then somehow like got magically taken out of before the thing could hurt them?
You know what my theory is? This was written by an angry Walmart employee who's like, every time the 10 minutes goes off, people are there with their fucking kids starting a Walmart trip. Like, what are you doing? And they're like, this is what should happen to the people who are actively shopping with 10 minutes left before closing time.
He said, let me freak them the fuck out. Maybe they'll leave.
No, literally, because the main character was kind of hateable. I don't know if you noticed, but the time where... Wait, hold on. Okay, my earbuds did a little thing. The time where she was running, and then she's like, yeah, my child is running behind me. I hear the tap, tap, tap of his feet, but like can hardly think about that. It's like, girl, what? How are you not behind your child right now? Like, what the fuck? I know. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty funny. The characters felt very hateable, and I was like, maybe this is just like karmic, you know, like maybe this was just meant to be for this family.
That was spooky. I loved it. For some reason, while you were reading it, I just could not picture myself in a Walmart. I pictured myself in a Ross. I know.
Stop.
No,
Not
I
the
don't
dress for
honestly.
less calling your name. Like, it's so funny.
Yes. Thank you for sharing, Sunny. That was actually certifiably spooky, I would say. Yes.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Let's see if I can top that. I don't know. Your story was pretty good. Call it an ugly twink the way it cannot be topped. I definitely stole that from TikTok, but this one's called "I'm a low-level U.S. government employee. I just saw something I wasn't supposed to see." This is posted by World Away Tweety on No Sleep. This is where Sunny and I basically get all of our stories, I'm pretty sure. It's the new creepypasta, the No Sleep pasta. So
Yeah.
the story goes, you know that meme about how presidents and governors, after getting elected, look super shell-shocked and stressed the next time they make a public appearance? Like, the first thing that happens after you come into power is that you're pulled into a room and told all of the secrets of the world? Well, turns out it's true. As a matter of fact, it's a VHS tape. The quote-unquote 4-hour tape was always a bit of an urban legend at the office. I'll be keeping the details of my role in government very, very vague, but to be absolutely clear, I am very low level. My role is caked between layers of bureaucracy, and in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty inconsequential role. Now, when you're working at my level, you're generally not privy to any high-level secrets. Yes, top secret meetings did occasionally happen in our building, but my focus is pretty limited and heavily administrative. So you do what any other department does when you're in the bottom rung of the hierarchy. You discuss rumors, rumblings, crazy conspiracy theories, and everything in between. It's water cooler conversation for us, basically. Man, I wonder what the folks at the top are doing right now. That kind of stuff. Out of all of the rumors that flutter around the office, the quote-unquote 4-hour tape was always the one I found the most fascinating. The crux of it, once you reach the highest clearance level, you are sat down and show this tape. None of us knew what the contents of the tape were, or if a tape like this even actually existed, but it was fun to speculate about it every now and then. Most of the time, we found with our little rumors and conspiracy theories that the most mundane answer was usually the correct one. Life in general finds a way to surprise us with how boring everything can be. This man really said Occam's razor, basically. Now, there's something you should know about me before I continue. I'm a wimp. I'm meek, anxious, and generally restless. Wait, low-level government employee and a wimp? Did I write this? No. I'm a chronic rule follower. There is no part of me that wants to dig up secret documents and uncover, quote-unquote, the truth about what happens at the highest levels of government in our country. Okay, I did not write this. So when I discuss the events of 4 nights ago, please be mindful of that. I didn't ask for this, and I'm only sharing because I don't know how much time I have left anyway, and I can't live with this stuck in my conscience, alone. It was nighttime at the office. I'm known to be a bit of a chronic workaholic. Definitely didn't write this. And there was something I really wanted to get done before the week was over, so I was working later than usual. I went to print a document on what I thought was the printer in my immediate vicinity. The notification on my computer showed that my document was being printed, but I didn't hear any noise or paper coming out from my local printer. I checked the name of the device I selected, and it looked like I'd accidentally clicked on a printer that was being used on another floor. I sighed. In any normal circumstances, I probably would have just forgotten about that mistake and reprinted the documents on my local printer again. But our general management here is quite stringent on us making sure that all confidential documents are accounted for. We are not allowed to share department-specific documentation to other departments. Fuck it, I thought. I looked up a map in my inbox showing the locations of all the company printers. Turns out I had accidentally clicked on the printer named Prince Charming on the 7th floor. Ha, funny name. Off I went. I really should have just let it be. I got to the elevator and rode it up to the 7th floor. I emerged onto the mostly empty office area. In case you were wondering, the building I work in is huge. But I'd worked there long enough to know my way around it, so I knew the area surrounding the printer relatively well. I made my way through the hallways and eventually spotted the printer with my freshly printed papers minting it. I gave myself a mental pat on the back for continuing my lifelong streak of following the rules. As I went to grab the papers, I noticed some light buzz in a meeting room nearby. I looked through the window to see roughly 10 people hanging out around a snack table. In the room was a large, old-looking TV on a cart, and rows of some of the fanciest folding chairs I'd ever seen, organized in a neat fashion. I didn't think too much of it and started walking off until I heard the door open. "Hey, Mr. Boskowitz, right? Jesus, man, we were supposed to start 15 minutes ago. Get in here." What? "No, sorry, I think you have the wrong. I don't care why you're late. Just get in here. Grab a plate of snacks and sit down. We're starting soon. Put your phone in the bag, electronic watch in the bag, and anything else on your person that can be used to record audio or video in the bag," he responded hastily. Something about his sternness and tone short-circuited my brain. For guys like me, there is a third option beyond fight or flight. It's called the just go with it until it's over. Also
actually
known as
too much of a beta for this. Sorry.
Okay. Basically, also known as the capture rabbit strategy. I put my phone and my watch in the bag. I meekly tried to butt in with another, "Sir, I'm not Mr. Boskowitz," but he already had pulled me into the room at this point. He closed the door and walked to the front by the TV. I thought about making a break for it, but I decided to just see it through at this point, hoping deep down that whatever was happening was as inconsequential as my job was. Everyone had their snack plates and were heading to their seats. I awkwardly grabbed a muffin from the snack table, put it on a napkin, and took a seat in the very back row. Everyone was spaced out from each other. It didn't seem like any of these folks knew one another. I quietly sighed at the thought of having to sit through some sort of boring informational seminar or irrelevant training session. After a few minutes of everyone settling in, the men who originally brought me into the room started talking. There was an equally serious guy standing next to him, and a Secret Service-looking fella standing in the corner. I started wondering to myself why we were going to watch a video of a very old-looking TV. Felt like we were all back in elementary school or something. "Alright, I just need to do a final run-through before we get started," the man at the front said. "I know you all read through the emails and signed your releases. I just want to recap some ground rules. You're allowed to get up and grab another snack, but beyond that, we want you to pay full attention to the tape once it starts playing. If any of you need to go to the bathroom, we strongly urge you," I don't know why this man is gay. "We strongly urge you to wait until the presentation is over, diva. If you absolutely have to go, we will pause the tape and one of us will escort you. Oh, Kurt, there's water in the corner by the snacks. Cups are right there as well." And goes without saying, but any discussion of this presentation to folks who do not have the top complimented clearance is a breach of your terms of employment, a breach of your non-disclosure agreement, a breach of your multiple sign releases, a breach of the U.S. Criminal Code in the state of redacted, and a breach of the conditions laid out by the Committee for the Protection and Preservation of Human Consciousness. They started dimming the lights. Fuck. I felt like I'd missed any window of opportunity I had to leave. Too late. That committee name he highlighted sounded way above my clearance level. One of the men at the front of the room pulled out a VHS tape from a bag and very slowly and securely put it into a VHS player. He pressed play. I took a deep breath. Those water cooler conversations I'd had with my coworkers were starting to float to the top of my mind, but I quelled them. There was probably no need for panic. It was just a stupid government meeting, right? The tape started. The beginning was familiar enough. Various disclaimers about this being incredibly confidential material, yada yada yada. Insignias of relevant organizations, presidential libraries, etc. I've seen lots of videos like this already. But wait, that insignia looked strange, like something was off. I scanned it. Presidential libraries, that same eagle, those same stars. Weird. This time, there was a navy blue hand on the left shoulder of the eagle. Did they update the logo? Before I had time to ruminate on it too much, the tape cut to a logo I had actually never seen before. Committee for the Protection and Preservation of Human Consciousness. The logo was just an image of planet Earth. Fair enough. The video cut to a room that looked similar to the Congress floor, but with some strange differences. Seats were much more spaced out, the podium looked like it had seen better days, and the whole room looked to be on a pretty steep incline. Everything was in black and white. It looked like there were about 50 people in attendance. It was hard to make out the faces. Everything looked very dated, like the video was from the 40s or 50s. The tape lingered on this one shot for quite a while. Minutes passed, actually. I noticed what looked to be a choir, all in outfit and perfectly huddled next to each other, standing in one of the corners of the room. It really felt like I shouldn't have been seeing this. None of this was meant for my eyes. After a few more minutes, the tape abruptly cut to an awkward angle video of a man speaking at the podium in the room. It was too zoomed in, enough that you couldn't see his eyes or his hair. It didn't look all that professional. I couldn't tell who he was. He spoke. Members of the Committee for the Protection and Preservation of Human Consciousness, I thank you all for coming tonight. We are lucky to be in the good graces of our visitors today. Without rehashing our painful history, the tape cut to a camera slowly panning over all of the faces of the folks seated in the room. The attendees looked pained, somber. The man continued his speech as the camera continued panning over the committee. We can acknowledge that the journey to this moment has been an arduous one. I am pleased to say that humanity, faced with a dire ultimatum, has come to a majority decision. To our esteemed guests from across the solar system, we are thankful for the opportunity you have given us to negotiate with you. I felt adrenaline. Fuck. We had made contact with the extraterrestrial life. This was the truth. Maybe like the saying went, the truth would set me free. Before I outline the decision taken by humanity, I want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank the brilliant representatives from all the nations of the world who came together to ensure that this decision was taken with utmost responsibility, care, and appreciation for our human species. I am aware that this was not a unanimous decision. Shit, what did that mean? I felt the sweat on my brow. I felt nausea coming in. I awkwardly and slowly took a bite of the muffin. The tape returned to a now corrected angle of the speaker at the podium. His eyes were visible. They looked strained, like they'd seen multiple versions of hell. To the nations who still disagree, he continued, I thank you nonetheless for accepting the majority decision. May this moment, which will be held in secrecy throughout the rest of time, be appreciated as a critical milestone for human civilization. Tonight is not a victory. It is a somber moment. However, we were faced with two options: extinction or accepting the agreement. We made our choice, and I believe time will show that this was the right decision. What the fuck was this? I hereby announce that we accept the agreement provided by our special guests who have chosen to go by the name Redacted. The intergalactic species known as Redacted will allow humanity on planet Earth to continue to populate, grow, and innovate. In return, all governments of the world will honor the promise. He needed to spit this shit out. What the fuck was this agreement? We will not be covering every element of the agreement in this session. I will, however, highlight the main points. At this point, the video showed the man at the podium looking down. He was reading off of something. For the first time, he looked nervous, scared. I saw some humanity in him. We honor the agreement that Redacted hold the right to visit planet Earth on a recurring basis. They will be allowed to consume, for the basis of nourishment, a majority of the human population on planet Earth. After every visit, the remaining humans on Earth will be expected to breed and grow to capacity in time for the next visit. We acknowledge that we will maintain a parallel history which will be shared with our world's population to ensure that humanity stays motivated to continue existing as a species. This parallel history may suggest that mass extinction events are the results of man-made folly as opposed to the work of external forces. For the first time, my fight or flight response was actually flight. I wanted to escape, but I didn't know what I'd even be running from. The last visit, by Redacted, was approximately in the year 1346, and it lasted 7 years. We will continue to honor our parallel history about this event. I just wanted it to end. The next visit, which will not be met with resistance, will be in the year 2028 and will run for 1 full calendar year on Earth, marking a 675-year gap between the last significant visit by the species, known as Redacted. This visiting cadence is expected to speed up over time, as the remaining humans continue to sharpen their focus on building technology to allow humanity to reproduce in a speedy and productive manner. Jesus Christ, our planet is a fucking farm? I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. The tape cut away to a larger view of the Congress-like room, the somber committee members in attendance, and the members of the choir in the corner, who I could only imagine looked horrified. Where were the visitors? Why couldn't I see them? The camera then panned to a number of larger empty seats, the same slow style of video panning as the one that happened earlier with the committee members. No visible entities in the seats, but the seats themselves look blurry. The man at the podium carried on with his speech as the camera pan on those blurry seats continued. We should acknowledge the privilege of knowing that there is indeed life in the cosmos, that extraterrestrial life has chosen to visit our planet, and that the cycle and balance provided by nature extends beyond the confines of planet Earth. Much like humanity has found its place on Earth in the food chain, we acknowledge our place in the divine order of things when encountered with beings of greater power, understanding, cognitive function, and evolutionary progression. Fucking hell, I shouldn't have stayed late at work. I should have made my identity clear from the very beginning. I knew I wasn't supposed to
You
see
think?
And while... Fuck. It really looked like the speaker was about to cry. While the process of consumption is a painful and lengthy one, we respect the trade-off that comes with the preservation of our species. We also acknowledge, as part of the promise, that substitutes for human life in the form of clones, should we discover that technology in the future, or other living species, will never function as viable alternatives for nourishment, the speaker continued. I didn't need to know this. This whole thing was way too specific for me. Our final major acknowledgement, as part of this agreement, is that we accept Redacted as the great almighty, as the entities we will now refer to as God. God, as an interstellar species, has revealed itself to us, and thus, the continued existence of Redacted is now the true priority of the people of our planet. We are blessed to play a part in the continuation of God. In God we trust. Amen. The tape then cut to footage of the choir as the speaker continued. We bless our visitors with this gift. A performance of the national anthems of all major nations of the world will now commence. Audio of a very loud backing track of the Star-Spangled Banner started playing from the video as my stomach sank. The tape showed footage of the choir singing on top of the track. Not sure if it was because they were scared for their lives, but I could really tell they were singing their hearts out. As they sang, the camera continued to pan over the blurry seats. They finished singing the anthem, and suddenly, fast forwarding. Fucking hell, I'd forgotten I was sitting in a room. I had disengaged from the video for a brief moment. I had mentally returned to the present day. This was our world. This was our fucking lives. The men at the front continued fast forwarding through the tape. It looked like they were skipping through performances of the other national anthems. The fast forwarding went on for a while. Every small while, it looked like a new choir group was entering the Congress-like room to sing a different national anthem. On and on the tape went. I had to fight the urge to pass out. One of the men at the front of our room, standing next to the TV, started speaking up. We are legally obligated to get to the end of this tape, but you don't need to look at the rest of it. Please feel free to look down, or close your eyes, or grab a snack, he said. I noticed the others seated in the room were taking that advice. Most of them decided to look straight down. For some weird reason, I couldn't look away. The fast forwarding progressed. On the tape, it was yet another choir group joining to perform an anthem, and then another, and then another. It looked like we were near the end. The fast forwarding now showed a conversation between the man at the podium and another man who was whispering in his ear. The man at the podium was vehemently shaking his head. The other man continued whispering. This continued on. Eventually, there was a quick moment of the man at the podium begrudgingly nodding. The last few fast-forwarded moments of the tape remain burned in my memory to this very moment. They were pandemonium. The attendees were sitting in their chairs, frozen, shivering, crying. The people in the various choirs were running around the rooms in fast motion as blurry spots started covering them and ungodly things started happening to them. Fuck. Why didn't I look away? If ever there was a time to fucking follow orders, it felt like the whole thing went on for longer than it should have. Finally, the men at the front of a room stopped the fast forwarding. They pressed play on the tape to cover the very final moment. In the tape, the man at the podium, clearly emotional, spoke his final line. The agreement has been ratified by redacted. Thank you all for attending. The final shot of the video is the full room. The committee members in their seats, shivering and crying. The dismantled and bloodied choir members strewn about the room. The blurry seats with blood smeared on them. The video then cut away, back to that same insignia on a black backdrop. The presidential libraries. That eagle, those stars, the navy blue hand on the wing of the eagle. The lights in her room turned on. The rest of the night was a blur. The man at the front of the room told us it was best for us to sit for an hour to digest the information. No discussion about the video was allowed to take place. When we were ready to stand, we were allowed to leave and go home. They gave us some pointers on how to, quote-unquote, accept the information over the coming weeks. Things like taking long walks, exercising, watching a sitcom, etc. I wasn't worried about them realizing that I wasn't supposed to be there. If anything, I felt a strange camaraderie with everyone in the room. We were all truly in the same boat. As soon as I left the building and got in my car, I just drove for as long as I could. I would stop for gas, then I'd keep driving. I'd stop again, then I'd keep driving. Again and again. I'm holed up in a hotel now. I'm just glad I could get this off my chest. The funny thing is, all I can think about is the length of that stupid tape. While I can't confirm, I feel like if it were played straight through without fast forwarding, it would have only been 3 hours. I wonder if the quote-unquote 4-hour tape rumor came from the fact that we all needed that extra hour to digest the information. And now you're probably wondering, why don't I name the species that is going to spell humanity's doom throughout the rest of time? Why am I calling them redacted? Well, as the self-appointed leader of the committee for the acknowledgement that we should have just chosen extinction, I don't feel the need to honor our captors by calling them by their name. If I don't see you again, Reddit, I appreciate the water cooler conversation. The end.
Wow. That one was heavy. Oh my gosh.
It was, but I love that he's like a little bit cantina about it. He's like,
yeah.
As the self-appointed leader of the committee for the acknowledgement that we should have just chosen extinction. And I'm not going to say their names.
Damn, that's so true. Sassy man alert.
I know. But I love this one. And this is really, especially now at the mark we're at, really the only one I cared about reading. And I knew it was long, but it was also my favorite. Yeah, thoughts?
I hope he survives. Like, you know,
well,
isn't
none
the
of us are
government
gonna
gonna be
survive.
out to kill him now? I know.
Yeah. Does it matter if we're gonna die in 2028 anyway?
Yeah. Honestly, like, what a good plot for a story. Yeah.
I know, and you know I love me some aliens. So it's interesting. Okay, so this is why I like the story. Because fuck it. Like, personally, I'm really drawn to this idea that American Horror Story last year's season, I don't know if it was season 11 or what, season 10, this idea that they covered in the first half of their season, that was that Eisenhower made a deal with aliens back in the late 40s, that he would allow alien abductions in exchange for technological advancements given to us from the aliens that we could reverse engineer in order to create our own technologies, i.e. microwaves and better TVs and blah, 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 blah. And also in order to avoid them trying to like colonize / annihilate us. Instead, he was like, please don't kill us all. We'll just like give you some of us to experiment on so that you can figure out how to create human alien hybrids. And that way your species, who you are scared is going to go extinct, will not go extinct. And you guys can like live in our planet, like make your own hybrid babies so your species can live on. And like that's what they need abductees for. And of course that like kind of ties that really connects a lot of dots as far as like, why do people get abducted at all? Why is it that when people get abducted, their testimonials are all about being prodded and like sperm or eggs taken out? Like, why does it? Honestly, that theory makes a lot of sense. The show covered it, but the show actually got it from a book called, I think, Beyond the Pale Horse, who was written by this woman who claims to have worked in really high places in the government. I believe like the CIA. I need to double check this. But this woman, whether or not what she purports is true, she certainly, she certainly believes it's true, and she is saying that what she's writing is true. The problem is that like, we can't fucking find her anywhere, but she wrote a whole book about the supposed deal between Eisenhower and the aliens and how he allows them to experiment on humans, because the alternative would be worse for us. So this is similar to that, and I loved it because I don't know, I kind of believe that. Like, it certainly would explain why the abductions happened, wouldn't it? And personally, I do believe they happen to real people, for real. So it ties the knot for me. I think that's why I like that theory.
Have you read The Three Body Problem?
I have not.
It's sci-fi, but I think you might enjoy it. It's a very interesting mix of like, I don't know, science jargon, but also with like a pretty fast-paced, interesting plot. But yeah.
Okay, I'm looking it up right now. I will check it out later. All right. Well, thank you for the book recommendation. I'm gonna be sure to check that out, at least a little summary of it or something. But thank you for your story as well. I really, really liked it.
Oh, same here. Thank you. And it was really nice to catch up and hear your voice.
It was. I haven't known absolutely anything about your existence since we last did a Halloween Campfire episode, which was either 2 years ago or never ago. So, I look forward to speaking to you again in 1 year.
Stop. Okay, sounds good. See you
anyway.
then.
Thank you everyone for listening. This podcast is very much dead, but also it's just kind of a fun labor of love for us. So I mentioned it's dead because I don't want to be like, message us and tell us what you want to hear about next. Like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But we know that there's still a number of you who always petition us to come back and be on here with you guys, make a fun episode for you. That's what we wanted to do here tonight. I hope we achieved it. We wanted to make it special for Halloween, so I hope beyond the 1 hour of rambling that you found this episode fun. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the support that you always give us and continue to give us. Yeah, no big meals before bedtime, and fuck off. Love you all.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Fuck off. Yeah. Love you all.
All right. Good night. Bye.
Good night.